Okay, let's unpack this. 1945. It's almost hard to really picture it now, isn't it?
It really is.
The scale of devastation from World War II, I mean, unimaginable.
Utterly. Cities just rubble. Millions lost.
And the whole fabric of, civilization felt like it was tearing apart.
Mm-hmm. A real precipice moment.
But then, from that absolute abyss, this powerful idea starts to form.
Right.
That the world simply must find a way to stop this ever happening again. Never again.
That became the driving force, didn't it? This intense need for change.
Exactly. And that urgent feeling, that resolve, it leads us straight to our topic for this deep dive, the birth of the United Nations.
The UN.
Because that same year, 1945, something pretty huge happens in San Francisco.
Monumental, really.
50 nations actually come together. They signed the Charter of the United Nations. It was, well, a really big deal.
And what's fascinating here is why it felt like such a big deal, why it was. Well, leaders weren't just, reacting to the war ending. They understood how incredibly dangerous war had become.
With atomic bombs now in the picture.
Exactly. And the sheer horror of the genocide finally laid bare for everyone to see.
Right.
They got that just winning wasn't enough. They needed something lasting, an organized peace.
Unlike maybe what happened before.
Precisely. There was the League of Nations after World War I, but, well...
It didn't quite work out.
Famously faltered, it lacked real enforcement power, and crucially, key players like the U.S. weren't even in it.
Oh, okay.
So the UN, they were trying to learn from those mistakes. This was kind of the world's second go at it.
Second try, but with more thought behind it.
Definitely. Designed with more robust structures and this idea of universal membership baked in from the start. Much more commitment.
Okay, so our mission then for this deep dive is really to explore how that global catastrophe, WWII, directly influenced the diplomacy we see today.
How it shaped everything that followed.
And what often gets missed, I think, is how the UN Charter wasn't just about security, like stopping wars.
No, not at all.
It explicitly linked peace to other things.
Yeah.
Human rights, economic development. That seems pretty radical for 1945.
It was radical. A direct response to the atrocities and the economic collapse people had just lived through.
So its goals were, well, ambitious is maybe an understatement.
Hugely ambitious. Keep the peace, protect human rights, help poorer nations grow, solve global problems together.
Together. That's the key word.
Mm-hmm. And that charter, it wasn't just a peace treaty. It was this revolutionary legal framework.
Also?
It set down principles like sovereign equality, collective security, even these fundamental human rights. It basically reshaped international law.
Wow. And we're still sort of dealing with and building on that today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Still debated, still evolving. And think about who signed on initially.
The big players.
The big players. The U.S., the UK, France, the Soviet Union, which is Russia now, of course, China.
The victors, essentially.
Right. And now, almost every country. Over 190 nations are part of the UN today. It's incredible.
It really makes you wonder, though. I mean, obviously, WWII was the huge catalyst.
Undeniably.
But were there other things going on? Other sort of geopolitical shifts or ideas bubbling up in 45 that made something this ambitious even seem possible?
That's a really good question.
Like, could the UN have even happened without that level of global trauma?
It's hard to say definitively, but the devastation certainly created a unique window, a unique political will. That never again feeling was incredibly powerful.
So powerful it pushed them to create this structure.
But, and this is important, while it was born from that really powerful ideal, its actual effectiveness, that's always been up for debate.
Right. It's not perfect.
Far from it. Some people see it as absolutely vital, this essential place for cooperation.
The only place countries can really talk sometime.
Exactly. But others see it as, well, slow, bureaucratic, too political, hamstrung by its own rules sometimes.
Yeah, you hear that criticism a lot.
So it's a complex picture.
Yeah.
Idealism meets reality.
So what does this all mean for us today, looking back? It feels like this deep dive really hammers home that connection. The lessons learned, or maybe the lessons they tried to learn from World War II, are completely tied up with why the UN exists and how global peacekeeping even tries to function now.
Absolutely. That never again sentiment, born from the ashes, it truly laid the foundation. It's embedded in its DNA.
The whole reason for being.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you see the UN playing this vital role, even if it's, like we said, imperfect.
Imperfect, sure.
It can't stop every war. It hasn't. We see conflicts happening right now.
Clearly.
But it does give countries this crucial space. Sometimes it's not glamorous, it's just talking. Trying to find solutions without fighting.
Which is better than the alternative.
Usually, yes, but then you get the criticisms, right? Like the Security Council veto power, that's often pointed to as a major weakness, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. The permanent members having that veto.
How does that tension, between the ideals of equality and the reality of power politics actually play out day to day? It's constant struggle.
It absolutely is. A constant tightrope walk, like you said. But maybe we shouldn't only focus on the high-level security stuff.
A good point. There's so much more.
Because the UN does a huge amount of work beyond just stopping fights. Think about global hunger.
Food security, yeah.
Okay.
The World Food Program.
Education initiatives, coordinating disaster relief. Remember the Haiti earthquake?
Absolutely. Or even global health challenges like COVID-19 recently. The WHO is a UN agency.
Right. They're doing all this work, often quietly on the ground, helping millions.
Indeed. So despite all the criticisms, all the limitations, this organization that came out of such a dark time, it's still right there at the center of world diplomacy today.
Still the main stage in many ways.
And understanding how it works, its strengths, its weaknesses, its challenges, that gives you, the listener, a really powerful lens.
A way to understand what's happening in the world.
Exactly. To decode global events, to understand how international decisions get made or sometimes don't get made.
And actually, here's a practical tip for anyone listening who's working on their English.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of UN speeches, debates, press conferences, they're in English.
That's true. Loads of material.
It's fantastic listening practice. Real-world important stuff.
Definitely a great resource. But it all raises this bigger question, doesn't it?
Okay.
This raises an important question. If the UN was born from the world screaming, never again to total war.
Yeah.
What are the new never agains for us? For humanity now?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Especially when you look at today's problem, climate change is a huge one.
Existential, potentially.
Or think about new kinds of conflict. Cyber warfare, AI in warfare, things they couldn't have imagined in 1945.
Right. Or even global pandemics, as we just mentioned.
Yeah.
What collective commitments do we need now?
What horrors must our generation commit to preventing together? That's something to think about.
Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something foundational. We're exploring that critical link, the connection between World War II and the birth of the United Nations. We've got some great source material here. And our mission really is to unpack how the UN started, what its purpose is, and its ongoing role, all seen through the lens of WWII.
It's a huge topic.
It is. I mean, think about World War II. It wasn't just destructive. It was one of the most destructive events in history, right?
Yeah.
And our sources stress how, out of that aftermath, nations were pushed towards, a radical change, a really strong commitment to peace.
Absolutely, a pivot point.
Which leads to this really interesting question the sources implicitly raise. If WWII hadn't happened, that specific devastating war, would the UN even exist as we know it?
It's a compelling thought experiment.
We'll be looking at the UN's methods, things like diplomacy, relief efforts, and there's this great phrase in one source describing the UN as, get this, a big, messy family meeting.
Huh. I like that. And it's so true, isn't it? Events of that magnitude, they force a hard look at how countries interact. We'll definitely connect that historical context, that desperate need for something different, to the tools the UN still uses today. Managing relationships, providing, help for people in need.
Exactly. So, okay, let's dig into those origins. Our sources point out, and this is key, it wasn't created in a vacuum. There was something before it, the League of Nations.
Right, the precursor.
Which, noble goals, but it ultimately failed to stop another world war.
Yeah.
So what lessons did the UN's architects learn from that failure? How did WWII sharpen their focus?
That's really the crux of it. The League's failure was, a glaring lesson. Idealism alone wasn't going to cut it. The sources really highlight this shift. It wasn't just about preventing war anymore, but actively building peace. Collective security was key, and crucially, universal human rights.
Human rights. That feels very WWII related.
Directly. World War II showed the horrific results of unchecked aggression and, what happens when there's no strong international framework for basic human dignity. Think about the League's structure, too. Decisions often needed everyone to agree, unanimity.
Which sounds difficult.
It often paralyzed them. The UN, on the other hand, especially with the Security Council, built in things like the veto. Now, that's controversial, sure.
Right.
But the idea was to make sure the major powers had a direct stake. They couldn't just walk away easily from big decisions. At least that was the theory.
Right.
It was about creating a system that sort of acknowledged the realities of power while still aiming for cooperation, for multilateralism.
That makes sense. A pragmatic edge born from failure and catastrophe. So it wasn't just about stopping the next big war, but also dealing with the roots and the consequences. How did its purpose widen? You mentioned human rights, but also things like development. Was that a direct legacy too?
Oh, absolutely. The sheer scale of suffering in WWII, I mean, the displacement, the hunger, the atrocities, it made it crystal clear. Peace isn't just no war.
Right. It's more than that.
It's also about justice. It's about well-being, human dignity. Our sources really emphasize this. The UN Charter itself, drafted, while the war was still ending or just over, it enshrined principles like self-determination, respect for human rights, a direct rejection of the ideologies that fueled the war. And that led pretty directly to creating specialized agencies. Think UNICEF for kids, the World Food Program for, emergency food relief, things we see all the time now.
Okay, so those weren't afterthoughts. They were part of the initial vision.
Exactly. The war taught a hard lesson. Economic instability, social injustice, these can be breeding grounds for conflict. So the UN's job expanded to tackle those underlying issues too. It's a much more holistic approach to peace, and that came straight from the war's lessons.
That really broadens the picture. So, okay, foundations laid, purpose expanded. Let's jump forward a bit. How does the UN function now? Using diplomacy, doing relief work. Let's circle back to that big, messy family meeting idea from the sources. What does that tell us about how it actually works day to day?
It's such a good analogy because, it captures the reality, doesn't it? You've got 193 member states.
Wow, yeah.
Each with its own agenda, its own history, its own political system. So diplomacy inside the UN, it's rarely about everyone happily agreeing.
I imagine not.
It's constant negotiation, it's compromise, and sometimes, it's deadlock. Frustrating deadlock. But importantly, it's the only place on Earth where all these different voices can actually be heard.
The only global forum like it.
Right. Think of the General Assembly like that huge family reunion, maybe a bit chaotic. Everyone gets to speak, even if it's just to complain.
Yeah.
And the Security Council, maybe that's like the smaller group of powerful elders trying to stop the whole thing from collapsing.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's messy because the world's problems are messy. Getting agreement among so many diverse players, it's incredibly hard.
But it does still function, right?
Yeah.
Despite the messiness, it manages to deliver actual help.
Yeah.
Like you see the UN logo during natural disasters or in conflict zones providing aid. How does that part work?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the UN's operational side often really comes through, sometimes almost separate from the political debates. While the diplomats argue in New York or Geneva, you have agencies like UNHCR, the Refugee Agency, or OCHA, which coordinates emergency responses. They're out there on the ground.
Doing the work.
Take the Haiti earthquake in 2010. Devastating event.
I remember that. Awful.
UN agencies were some of the very first international responders there, providing shelter, medical aid, food, water, the essentials. Our sources highlight these efforts, even if they face challenges with funding or, political roadblocks sometimes, they still represent a kind of collective global promise, a commitment to ease suffering that was really forged in the aftermath of WWII. It's the practical application of that realization, born from the war, that we have some kind of shared responsibility for the most vulnerable people.
So bringing this all together as we wrap up our deep dive, it seems incredibly clear that that terrible aftermath of World War II wasn't just an ending point. It was the direct spark, the catalyst for creating the United Nations, founded on this powerful drive for, a more stable world order, a commitment to peace.
Undeniably.
And we've seen how that vision plays out practically, both in the, let's say, complex world of diplomacy and in really vital relief work, like the response in Haiti. And that analogy, a big, messy family meeting, it just sticks, doesn't it?
It really does.
It captures that reality perfectly. It's not perfect, far from it. It can be frustratingly slow, full of disagreements, but at its core, it provides that space, that crucial platform for talking, for dialogue instead of, well, fighting. It really makes you appreciate the enduring importance, maybe the indispensability of this response to what happened in WWII.
Absolutely. And, connecting it back to that earlier point about the League of Nations, its failure wasn't just a footnote. That failure, combined with the sheer horror of World War II, it created an imperative. We needed something like the UN, which leads to a final thought, maybe something for you, the listener, to ponder. Looking forward, what lessons do we still need to learn, or perhaps relearn from past conflicts to truly uphold that commitment to peace, especially through institutions like the UN? Imperfect, yes, but still that unique, vital place for dialogue, that essential tool we have to try and prevent ourselves from going back down the path of widespread global conflict.